Welcome to Media Blender, your source for news, views, and information you can use here in Windsor-Essex. I'm your host, Hailey Trealout. There was an interesting development in the Lev Tahor case yesterday. An Ontario judge was supposed to rule on whether 13 children of the controversial Jewish sect will be sent back to Quebec to be placed in foster care. The ruling was never heard, and media members were asked to leave the courtroom because of an emergency motion. Loubna Fawaz tells us more.
Just hours before an Ontario court would rule in a child custody battle, members of the ultra-Orthodox sect Lev Tahor fled the country. Lev Tahor is facing several allegations of child abuse. Last month, an Ontario judge upheld a Quebec court order taken last November to remove the children from their families. That's when members of the controversial sect left Quebec to Chatham-Kent. Ontario's court gave the families 30 days to appeal the decision. Yesterday, the result was about to be announced. Instead, media members were asked to leave the courtroom because of an emergency motion. A few hours later, Piarco Airport in Trinidad and Tobago confirmed that 9 people from Lev Tahor were detained there, apparently on their way to Guatemala. The whereabouts of the 13 children who are part of the legal case and their families are still unknown.
That was Loubna Fawaz reporting on developments in the evolving Lev Tahor case. The trial coordinator later told reporters the judge had ordered the apprehension of the 13 children. Yesterday night, police officers and Chatham-Kent children's service workers visited Lev Tahor homes. They did not appear to apprehend any children, and the appeal has been rescheduled to April 4th. Leamington, Ontario's biggest employer, Heinz, put out a statement 4 months ago, saying it was closing the Leamington facility. Last week, some employees were able to breathe a sigh of relief. A new company plans to take over the Heinz facility, saving nearly 250 jobs. Stacey Janzer spoke with Pradeep Sood, investor with the Highbury King-Co Corporation. He speaks about why he chose to invest in Leamington.
One of the things we found was the willingness and encouragement and the wonderful people of Leamington that we got to meet in the process. Having spent a little time in Leamington, was very impressed by the community, and we are absolutely thrilled to be part of that community, and we are sincerely hoping that together we make something sustainable, something exciting, something good. We formed a new company, which is Highbury King-Co Corporation. Each of the shareholders brings a strong manufacturing background, food manufacturing background, a logistic background, finance background. So we have a pretty strong group of investors who have joined together for Highbury, and especially for this project. Initially only we are going to be making more than just tomato juice. It's not just for tomato juice. We're going to be canning other products as well. Not all the products, but there will be a reasonable number of products that will be canning for Heinz as a co-packer. Basically, it was more like a business decision. The investors who are with me, we actually looked at it more like a business plan, in the sense we found this 105-year-old company, and we were a little skeptical earlier, but when we went there, we saw a lot of good things are being done there. It's got a highly skilled labor and good processes and systems in place. So we looked at it as a business plan, found that we could make some changes and make some money in the process once we took it over. So we put a plan and put it to Heinz. For the longest time, we didn't look at the opportunity and didn't really realize if that was something we'd like to do. But when we did look into the whole operation, we went to Heinz with a proposal, which they probably found as the best of the lot they got, because they decided their LOI with us.
That was Stacey Janzer with Pradeep Sood of Highbury King-Co Corporation, speaking about his new company and its plans to take over the Leamington Heinz facility. Well, I think it's safe to say everyone is getting tired of the record-setting winter season here in Windsor. Are you getting away to forget the freeze for March break? Remember, safety first. Here's a message from the SCC Media Blender to you and your family.
March break is right around the corner, and if you should find yourself at a party, remember, don't drink and drive. Impaired driving kills hundreds in Canada every year. Drugs and alcohol are a factor in 55% of motor vehicle accidents, causing death to 16 to 25-year-olds. Know the risks, know your limits, know how you're getting home. Remember to plan ahead and arrive alive. Don't be a statistic. Don't drink and drive.
Have you ever wondered what goes on behind the scenes at an independent radio station? Darren Breckles spoke to Sarah Morris, program director at CJAM Radio, to find out.
Today we will be spending 5 minutes with Sarah Morris, program director at CJAM Radio. Sarah has risen through the ranks as a volunteer and DJ before becoming program director. She's the organizer of Riot Girl Tuesdays, a feminist gathering, and is involved with International Women's Day, which CJAM will be devoting a full day of programming to this Saturday. Welcome, Sarah.
Hello.
Can you tell us a bit about your duties as program director at CJAM?
Sure thing. I'm sort of in charge of more of the day-to-day events that happen here at the station. So I'm in charge of volunteer coordination as well as making sure we're up to our regulations and up to code here at the station. So I set up all of our overnight programming. I go through the previous night's logs. I'm just making sure everything is running like a good machine here at the station. And I'm also sort of in charge of some of the event coordination and our special programming. Also, so as I said, volunteer coordination, so I do all of the training, and I kind of help people go through the process of starting their own radio program.
Okay, great. So when did you start at the station, and how did you progress through the ranks to your present position?
I started at the station around 2008 when I went to the university for sort of a preview week when I was about to start my undergrad, and there was a table where they had free cookies and you can sign up to be a CJAM volunteer. So I started doing that in my first year of university, and I was very nervous to be on the radio, so I never wanted to have a show to start. I always just wanted to help out, kind of see behind the scenes, and then some student jobs had opened up, so volunteer coordinator assistant and pledge drive coordinator and things like that. So I started taking those little jobs, and during that time I began my first radio program, Pardon My French, which focuses on French music from around the world. And from there I kind of have stuck with the station, and in 2010 we got our first Trillium grant for volunteer coordinator, and I got that job since I had worked previously as the volunteer coordinator's assistant, so I got this when it kind of opened up. And I worked there for 2 years, and then when the program director position opened, my grant was just finishing, so I applied for that job, and here I am today.
Okay, great. So you guys are involved with International Women's Day and devoting Saturday's programming to it. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Sure. CJAM is generally, we're pretty dedicated to making sure we have a lot of diversity and equality on our station. So International Women's Day just kind of fits in with our general mandate. We're doing 24 hours of programming. Some of our programming will be the original Saturday shows that people already know, and some will be new shows or different specials. And we're also doing a special concert at Fog Lounge on February 7th on Friday, just for anticipation and to sort of kick that off.
Okay, so you also are the organizer of Riot Girl Tuesdays, a feminist gathering at Fog Lounge. Can you tell us a bit more about that, about how that came about?
Sure. So my second CJAM show that I kind of started taking over was called Milk and Vodka, and I started doing that probably around 2012. And I was hosting the show with a woman named Jessica Firth at the time, and her and I were kind of complaining or griping that there wasn't a lot of activities around town just for women or organized for women, and that we didn't really feel like the music scene was very positive towards women. So we were like, you know what, let's not complain, let's just make our own event. And we started doing that in the fall of 2012. And it's a monthly gathering, the last Tuesday of every month at Fog Lounge. We've done a lot of different kinds of things, from music events to poetry to zine-making workshops. And now I'm hosting it with a woman called Amy Gleason, and she's also my co-host on Milk and Vodka, that radio show that's kind of tied into it. So we're doing a clothing swap at the end of the month, and that's going to be on Tuesday, March 25th. And it's a free clothing swap, so anyone can come down and bring at least 3 items of good clothing and swap them with some other cool ladies around town. And then whatever is not swapped or given away, we'll be bringing it to the Welcome Center Women's Shelter on Bridge Avenue.
Okay, great. Could you just briefly tell us some of your proudest accomplishments in your time at the station and what you might like to accomplish?
I think it's always great when you get to approve a new show and you kind of help someone who has no experience with radio, has never done radio in their life, and you get them to a point where they're hosting their own radio show. Is pretty exciting. We had a woman who is a custodian at our building, and she had come in and kind of talked about how she was interested in music and interested in radio, and she'd be in the office every day. So I helped her get a show, and she was here for a little while before she stopped working at the building. But during that time, it was pretty cool to see someone who had never had any experience, had no formal training with it, be able to start their own program. And throughout my time as program director, I want to keep doing that and bringing different kinds of voices to the radio and voices that you wouldn't ordinarily hear.
Okay, great. So we've just spent 5 minutes with Sarah Morris, Station Director, Program Director at CJAM Radio in Windsor. Thanks very much for talking with us today,
Thanks
Sarah.
so much.
This is Hailey Trealout, and you've just enjoyed another edition of Media Blender. Join us again next time.